Welcome to the Voices of Young People podcast, brought to you by Springtide Research Institute. In each episode, we hear directly from young people as they respond to our research and share about the issues impacting their lives. As sociologists and researchers, we see a new story unfolding for young people, one that moves beyond traditional institutional boundaries and requires careful attention to the inner and outer lives of emerging generations. At the intersection of being and becoming, it's the voices of young people.
Hello, this is Marta Abawaji, the head of community engagement at Springtide, and we're continuing in season 7, where we have been listening to young people all across the country share about their mental health experiences and perspectives and the ways that they look for support in their own communities. And we have 2 phenomenal young people joining us in this episode. We have Kaiya and Camden. They're both 19. They're both in the Northeast, but this is the first time they're meeting each other. And yet they're willing to engage this mental health and Gen Z conversation, which we are so grateful to have them. Kaiya, will you introduce yourself first?
Of course. Hi, I'm very excited to be here. My name is Kaiya. I am a 19-year-old student at the new school. I'm studying psychology with a focus on developmental psychology. And I use she, her pronouns. And something I like to do for fun is like randomly, I guess, analyze childhood cartoons and childhood film.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That feels like a really like pop culture nerdy meets psychology thing.
That's literally why I do it. So
what are some of the childhood cartoons you're analyzing?
Okay, so definitely Avatar, The Last Airbender, and Legend of Korra. Those are like my top favorite shows. And then this is not a childhood cartoon because it's not for children, but BoJack Horseman is like a big one that I like to psychologically kind of analyze and unpack and relate characters to myself all the time. It's just like a nice pastime hobby to do. I get really into it. So
that is so cool. I love that. It's so niche, but it's very, very cool that that is your passion. I heard Camden get a little bit excited about Avatar. So I don't know if that's...
I like that. I really like Avatar. So.
Awesome. It's one of my favorites. Definitely.
Well, on that note, Camden, will you introduce yourself?
My name is Camden Dennis, and I'm 19. I'm a fitness trainer here at the Irwin Anytime Gym in Pennsylvania. And a hobby that I like to do is I like to just play basketball. So,
Awesome. Love it. So we have a current student, we have a current young professional, and we're going to hear more about school environments and work environments and the ways that both of these guests are hearing mental health discussed. So in that regard, when you hear the phrase mental health, what are the first words that come to mind for either of you?
I definitely think of new age, I guess, like this new age kind of idea of mental health, and like a term that speaks to something that's always existed in a sense, but now it's like becoming more talked about and like really like kind of discovering how this applies to us and what it means in our society and like modern research.
Love
it. That's really helpful to hear. What would you say, Cam?
I would just say like a healthy state of being, like overall, from physical to mental, because I think they kind of correlate. Like for me, fitness has just been a gateway for, having good mental health. So I would just say overall state of being. So
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but with personal trainer, with basketball, like there's, you already highlighted so many ways that, you're active, but that's cool to hear that physical health in some ways has been, I guess, an on-ramp for mental health even. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. For sure.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's get into it a bit more. Where do you guys get messages about mental health?
Definitely social media would be like the main outlet for that. And of course, school is like, definitely becoming more open to talking about it and stuff now. And it's becoming more of a discussion within families, which is really great. And like, just, cultures and communities. So it's something that should definitely be more on the rise as far as discussions.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah, I would primarily say social media. I think that's the biggest one for sure.
I hear that from almost all of our guests, Camden. They I don't know if I've yet in recording this season, I don't know if I've yet heard a young person not mention social media as a place where they're getting messages about mental health. And I think that would surprise a lot of adults, because not all adults are clued in to social media, and the ones who are maybe aren't getting messages about mental health, depending on, which accounts they follow. And so I don't even think a lot of adults, and you all both are young adults, but adults older than both of yourselves, are even necessarily thinking about how much social media is a part of this mental health conversation. And I think it's something that makes Gen Z really distinct when it comes to thinking about and talking about mental health and destigmatizing mental health. If you had a concern for yourself or for a friend in the realm of mental health, who would you turn to in your communities? It could be in your school place or workplace communities, or in a community that you haven't even mentioned yet today.
I would say the elderly, and honestly, because they haven't really been interacted with social media as much as like our generation. So they kind of don't get all that negativity that comes with social media. Now, there's a lot of positivity on social media, but there's also a lot of negativity with that. And I feel like the elderly have a lot of advice about that.
That's cool. So do you have
separated from that?
Do you feel like you have an elder in your life, even whether it's a relative or just another trusted adult in your life who you are like, that person I could specifically trust to check in or bring a concern I had about my own mental health or a friend's?
Yeah, well, I would say just like from, training, like me being a trainer, all the elderly that I've trained, they just have a really positive outlook on life. You know what I mean? So they have a lot of good advice with them.
That intergenerational connection is rad. I feel like so many people, they answer this question with friends or peers, and that makes sense. But I think it's really illuminating to hear that you're specifically thinking about older adults and even elderly adults who you could trust or confide in. Kaiya, what would you say?
That's really interesting. Just to build off of what Kim said really quickly. The elderly, I never thought about that. Like the fact that since they are so disconnected from social media and stuff, they're not as tainted, I guess, as our generation is with all the negativity that comes into our world. So I think that's something I would consider in the future if, me or anyone else is going through something, maybe talk to a grandparent or something. But for me personally, yeah,
and it's both of you.
Right. Yeah. Because my mom, she works in a nursing home. So I always found pleasure just in talking to old people in general and, just hearing their stories, hearing their outlook on life and how that may have changed out around the time. But for me personally, I think that in general, since I've always been someone that wanted to take action, but, sometimes we don't always know who or what to go to. And I think that in setting for me, where I'm surrounded by other students, I would say maybe a trusted adult or faculty member that is going to actually, either direct you to someone that can help and get the resources that you might need. Because I think that, talking is one thing, but actually getting things done, actually, seeing what options are for people is another thing. And that's what I really do hope for people that, are going through what they're going through. Because of course, a simple accommodation can't fix anything, but can't fix everything that's going on, but it definitely can be a step forward into getting the direction, again, the help that you might need. I've recently been utilizing the student health and disability services, which cater to helping people get accommodations for their mental health, because people forget that I think that mental illness is an illness that we need help with and stuff. And I feel like people forget they forget that we need actual accommodations for that. And there are resources to help us get those accommodations. So
lovely. Yes.
Now,
big boat of support for those accommodations. Yeah. What were you going to say, Cam?
I was just going to say that I think a lot of school systems could also use some work, because I don't think they recognize how
definitely
powerful mental health really is on an individual. And I feel like that's something that, like you said, we do need to work on.
Mm-hmm.
So
I hear that so much, whether it's middle schools, high schools, higher ed settings, that it's great that people mention schools as a place where mental health can be discussed, but how much more can these institutions become more mental health positive? And that is what our research is really trying to unpack, especially in our report, what educators need to know when it comes to mental health and Gen Z. I'm curious for both of you, what activities do you do when you feel particularly stressed out or down or anxious or whatever the mental health experience is? You don't necessarily have to unpack that, but I'm curious about what sort of practices, activities are helpful for you.
Go ahead.
Okay. I would say just being around family, ones that like really love you. You can really provide that support. You know what I mean? And just kind of take your mind off things. So I think that's really important. That's my number one thing. So.
That's great. Yeah. We know you have like the physical activities already on lock that you've mentioned, but being around family as well. That's lovely.
Definitely family. Like, for me, sometimes like every other weekend or so, I'll try to visit my mom in Brooklyn. But on like the times when I'm just in school and stuff and things are really stressful, like as far as like recently what I've been doing, I've just been really creating like a nice safe space for myself. And that safe space consists of like, just like this area where I can exist and not have to really think about much stuff, and just kind of like, I'll be surrounded by my comfort foods and like maybe like childhood cartoons and stuff like that, like a nice blanket. And I'll just kind of like create like a very like all around pillow for myself, and then allow myself to just decompress there in an area where I just know is built for me. It's safe. And then I can, acknowledge my emotions and whatever stresses that's affecting me, while also knowing that, okay, like I am still surrounded by what makes me happy. So it's not as hard. So it's like easier to deal with it.
That is rad. We love hearing about the ways that young people relate to space and the ways that they sort of curate a particular space for themselves. Is that in your dorm room, the space you're describing?
It's literally just in my room. Yeah, it's just kind of like I have a million teddy bears everywhere. So it's like I'll kind of just cuddle up with like more than one or something, and then I'll just have my laptop, and luckily I have like a cafe downstairs, so I could just like get ice cream or something, or pieces of cake, eat some sweets, watch some cartoon, and then just not have to think about anything for a little bit.
So you can't go wrong with Avatar and ice cream.
That's literally what I did. It was Avatar I was watching.
Yeah.
It was literally just like last weekend. I was like, I'm going to sit and watch my Avatar with all the episodes that has Marceline in it, and just, just allow myself to exist for a little bit. So,
man, if I was making an episode title that was unique to each episode, it would maybe be "You Can't Go Wrong with Avatar and Ice Cream."
That's where we watched it like
you both are bonding over that.
Love that.
Just a quick break to give a shout out. Springtide is able to offer this podcast because of donors who make our research and actionable insights possible. A trusted adult recently said of our work, "If you care about helping young people thrive, you'll want to check out the resources from Springtide Research Institute. They make their findings clear and easy to understand, and through a lens of thorough research, they allow young people to really speak for themselves about what they need to flourish." You can see more of our current findings on our website, springtideresearch.org, where you can also make your own tax-deductible donation with a variety of giving options. Now, back to the episode. When it comes to our research that I referenced just a bit in our mental health series, we have three main themes that are emerging all throughout the series, and they are connections, expectations, and purpose. So one element of connections that I'd love to hear you two unpack a bit is who in the various communities you're a part of, whether that's a work or a school community or some other space that you find yourself in, whether it's a social setting or volunteer space, etc. I'm wondering who in one of those communities can you trust to talk about your mental health and what makes them trustworthy?
For me, definitely, it would be my professors and just like, I guess, the institute in general. Like, as we talked about, going to the new school, it's a very supportive community when it comes to mental health. And so far, all of my professors have been, it's insane. Like, I've never been in an institution that kind of like knows about it so much, where it's like such a topic where professors really do understand and can cater to a student in that way. And you never feel ashamed of having to talk about like, hey, I can't come into class today because I literally cannot get out of bed, or, hey, like I need some extra time on this thing. So it's like, if I really had someone to just in my immediate community to confide in and stuff and make me feel like life is not going to be as hard, it would just definitely be my professors. And reaching out to the higher ups in the school that can help with that.
I really like that. For me, I'd say probably just my colleagues, because I'm with them, like 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. And I would say just talking to them, and because we can kind of relate on some things, so that helps a lot. And yeah, I think just communication within the workplace. I think
that's great.
Yeah,
that's great. I don't feel like everyone always feels like their colleagues you can have that sort of trust or relatability with. But like you said, you're with them 8 hours a day. Like, so many people are in their workplaces more than they're with anyone else, with like a significant other, with family, etc. Like, you share so much life with each other. And so if there's a place to have some authenticity in these conversations about mental health, that's tremendous. I'd love to get both of your takes on expectations. We explore expectations through a few different vantage points in our research, and I'm wondering if you feel like there's expectations at your school or your workplace that you feel like help your mental health in some way.
I would say yes, because when I'm expected to help a client achieve their goals, that helps me tremendously, because I just love the aspect of helping others as well. Like, it makes me feel good about myself every day when I go into work. So I think that's,
Yeah, that's wonderful here. And that connects a lot to our purpose research, which I want to ask you about that next. But yeah, Kaiya, I'd love to hear your answer as well. And in that same vein of expectations, I'm wondering also for both of you, if there's expectations that you feel like are harmful for your mental health with the way that they're communicated, or just what the expectations are themselves in school or work settings. But yeah, Kaiya, let's hear from you.
Yeah, like for things that have definitely helped me, I think it's the fact that, once again, like, I guess my school, they really they really are big on creativity. So I think the expectation to be vulnerable, because like that's what your art is. I don't just take psychology, I'm also a creative writer as well. So, a lot of my creative writing courses, they kind of expect you to kind of like pour your heart in there, which is really good. It's a nice mental clarity to be able to, discuss topics about mental health, and not just that, but like any other thing that's going on in our society today. It's like good to be able to speak about it in a way where we're not just talking about it in casual discussion, but we're actually, utilizing like other resources, doing like a nice dive about it and really like, discussing how these topics affect us. So like, that's just really good because it just helps. I think it just kind of helps everybody out, to just be able to pour our thoughts out there.
Okay. Do either of you have an example where expectations maybe added unnecessary pressure, or they just weren't creating a mental health friendly environment? The expectations could be harmful.
Yeah, I would definitely say that in high school, I think a lot of adults would push their ideals on you and like what they think that you should do, or like what they feel you would be best at. And that's good. But I think you need to let the kid decide as an individual what they want to do and where they want to go and just who they want to be in general. So I think they push a lot of their ideals onto you.
Yep. So. I hear that. I definitely hear that.
Definitely. I resonate with that a lot, especially like high school. It kind of followed me into college in some ways too, that I had to get used to. But specifically, I know my senior year, for example, we're all choosing colleges and stuff. And I always knew that I wanted an abstract path. I always knew that I never wanted to take another core class again, and it's like, I feel like, faculty members, like teachers, especially in high school, and, just like your peers in general, they kind of all expect us, especially in an American school system, especially, there's not always a lot of room for creativity there. And I think that they always expect you to go into like this one route. So when I told, my career coach, I think, or graduation coach, that I wanted to go to, to New York to study and, go to new school specifically, she was kind of like, yeah, but, what are you going to do there? And it's like, there wasn't much, room. Like, it was always like, I expect you to be here at this time. And so that the next step, you can go specifically to this place, versus we are all growing and we're all learning who we are. We're literally only 17, 18 at that time anyways. Like, who even knows who they are at that time? I definitely did not. And I'm still 19. I'm still discovering that now. And I can say that I like who I'm becoming. But if I were to subject myself to a box and not allow myself to grow and explore areas that I truly am interested in, and explore and learn from an institution that, encourages that exploration, it's like, that's the path that I want to take. It's more abstract, and abstract is not always a bad thing, versus just like, linear. Not to say linear is bad as well, but linear does not work for everybody because no one is linear. So, yeah.
Every day, I think I learn something new about myself. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like throughout life, like you're never going to figure out exactly who you are. You're always going to be learning something new about yourself. And I think that's the good thing about life. You know what I mean? So when all these people try and push their ideals on you, you just got to take it with a grain of salt and kind of just, figure out your own path.
Exactly. See what works for you.
Yeah.
I think you both are really doing that. From the little bit I've gotten to already learn about each of you, like at 19, I feel like you both have such clear heads about like, this is who I am. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I want to pursue. These are some next steps I'm looking towards. But still, it sounds like having some flexibility, knowing that you might still evolve into other versions or learn something different about yourself along the way. So yeah, beautifully said, both of you. Okay, so I also want to get into purpose a little bit. And Cam, you referenced this a bit when you said that, having a career where you get to show up and help people is really fulfilling for you. In that vein, I'm wondering if having a sense of purpose or connecting to something bigger than yourself, whether that is a cause or a movement or a higher power, or just a sense of like connecting to the world or the universe, a community, being bigger than yourself, does that connection and that sense of purpose, does that give you a positive mental health connection in some way? Does it have an impact on your mental health?
About 2 years back, I had a deadlift and I actually hurt my lower back. So it kind of changed my, fitness, I guess, career or journey. And I couldn't do any of the lifts that I normally would. And it kind of just put me in a depressed state. And I think with the personal training, whenever I would see individuals with problems of their own, it made me want to help them, get over that. So I think I found a sense of purpose in that. And that's what I want to capitalize on in the future. So just moving forward with that.
I really like that response a lot. I'm still trying to, I guess, figure out where my purpose is and everywhere. I'm spiritual more than anything. So as long as I have that, I know I'm always connected to some sense of the universe. And I think right now my purpose and my focus is kind of just healing my inner child and discovering, what she needs and how that benefits me now when going into my adulthood and stuff. But right now I just know that I think I'm on a pretty good track and stuff. I'm doing things, I'm experiencing, I'm making mistakes, I'm doing good, doing good things and stuff. And it's I just know that where I'm at now is where I think I should be. And I don't know where that might lead me to as yet. I have ideas, but I'm going to keep on going and keep doing what I know is right based on my intuition and what, my heart and brain desires. So, yeah.
Can I elaborate on something that you said?
Of course.
About healing your inner child or giving what it needs. I think a lot of people, get confused on, the ideals, once again, that people push on you. Say, hey, grow up, or hey, you got to do this. You know what I mean? But stay young.
Exactly.
Keep that mindset.
Yeah.
That's what makes you you. That's what you like to do.
Right. And yeah, so actually on that, it's funny you said that because in staying young and what it means to stay young, one of my classes that I'm taking, I actually just had it this morning, is called Being Young. It's my, it's my writing the essay class. And it's literally about discovering what it means to be young. And my research project that I'm doing for the end of the semester is actually a creative, nonfiction in a sense where I talk about my experiences of my childhood and stuff in my adolescence period and reflecting on that now as an adult and seeing, where did I lose myself and why did that happen?
Yeah.
Wow. I love that you're both relating on that aspect as well. From this physical trainer to this, budding psychologist, you both are this strikes a chord. I love that. In that kind of realm of thinking about being young, I'm curious about what you think marks Gen Z in a particular way when it comes to mental health. Is there something that your generation does in a distinct way or thinks about mental health in a particular way that sets you apart from other generations?
I think we focus on it more in positive and negative ways. So I think it goes both ways of the spectrum, but I feel like we're a lot more aware of it than past generations. I think we're actually going a long way with, making a change too. And I think you're a big contributor to that, so.
Yeah, well, I hope so. We hope that Springtide's research can help shift some of these, not just conversations about mental health, but actual different ways of operating, that there can be cultural changes in different institutions when it comes to supporting young people in all different realms of their mental health. Kaiya, do you feel like Gen Z has a different way of approaching mental health?
Definitely. Actually, I want to build off what you said, Camden, with how there's been positive and negative ways in which our generation has focused on it a lot more. And, in reference to the earlier question of what I think of when it comes, when I hear mental health, I think that is this new thing that is becoming more of a discussion. And I think that even the downsides of it where it's becoming maybe too much of a focus in a sense, or, quotation marks there, it's it's still okay because it's a discussion to be had. So anything that's right or wrong, it's all new material for future research so that the next generations won't have to go through what I guess Gen Z and millennial era did, where we didn't have as much access to it, especially millennial era, where they didn't have that much access to it as much. They kind of had to learn it on later on in life that this is something that affects us and is going to, affect our futures and stuff, how it affected our parents. But, there wasn't as much of a talk about that as before, especially if you think about ethnic cultures as well. That definitely was not a discussion to be had because I come from an cultural background. My family's from Grenada, and that definitely was not a conversation. So I was disconnected from that as well. So like with social media and like, my generation in general, this being a conversation that is popping up more and more, I think that it can be very helpful and very reassuring to know that, okay, I'm not alone in this. And I don't have to blame my parents for not knowing because they are just as, they were just as like, I guess, ignorant in a sense as the other and stuff. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I hear that. I hear the cultural dynamics at play, the generational dynamics at play, and the ways that those overlap. And I am encouraged over and over again in these conversations I'm having on the podcast and beyond when it comes to Gen Z thinking really critically and compassionately about mental health for themselves and right. for their peers. And I agree with you both that there's something really distinct in helpful ways. And I hear you where sometimes there can be still ways for there to be improvement and growth in how mental health is discussed and addressed in your generation. But I think you guys are leading to some really important change for society as a whole. All right. As we wrap up, I'm curious if there is a question or a topic that you feel like wasn't in our conversation, but you think is really important to be brought into the mental health discussion that we've had today. So yeah, is there a question or idea that you would want to add as a final thought?
I would just touch up on like parents and grandparents. So I guess past generations, and I there's like this thing going around where you got to be tough, you got to be strong. You know what I mean? But like sometimes you have to be weak before you're strong. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like you have to build up to that. So I think it's a lot of pressure on top of what you already have. So I think, our generation coming up, I think we're going to be a lot more aware of that with our kids. You know what I mean? So
I guess just building off of that idea, because my question was, I guess, kind of similar. It was just more like, I guess having discussions with our family members, like our parents, our caregivers, whoever, and, opening up that topic more of mental health and like, if they can recall any times in their life, if they have any noticeable struggles about that, and how did you deal with that at your age and your time when you didn't have as much features as we did? Because I think that generational gap and that understanding of each other can really also be progressive, in a family environment where I know some families, they are very conservative about those kind of stuff, where it's like they don't really want to talk about things that are more sensitive. And so I think that having the understanding of, hey, like what I'm going through may not be as far off as what you've gone through. You just dealt with it differently because you may not have had the resources to deal with it. So.
Yeah, I think on that's actually a really good point. I think on that, like our parents didn't really grow up with social media as much as we did. So all that negativity we're bringing home with us, mm-hmm. as opposed to when they're done with their work or their day, they're going home and all that's cut off.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So then they're just kind of focusing on themselves rather than having negativity right at their fingertips. So I think it's just different in that sense.
Well, the fact that you both, really want to have those familial conversations that have an openness about, hey, here's maybe a challenge I experienced that relates to my mental health, either presently or when I was your age type of conversation. The fact that you're both interested in that sets up our research so nicely, because as this mental health series continues, that is exactly one of the reports that we will be tackling, and it should release in 2023. So keep following along whenever you're listening to this podcast episode, because our parents and caregivers and trusted adults we want to make sure they feel empowered and equipped to make more mental health friendly environments in homes as well. Well, this has been such a fun and illuminating conversation. Thank you, Camden. Thank you, Kaiya. You both are doing amazing things in your lives. Springtide is better off because we have voices like yours to bring our research to life in these podcast episodes. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. It's been a great opportunity.
And thank you, Kaiya, for, having good conversation.
You too, of course, Camden.
And
thank
watch
you.
Avatar.
Please. I definitely will watch it for the 5th time.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Visit springtideresearch.org to hear more voices of young people and to learn about the latest research and resources available in our Mental Health and Gen Z series. Springtide Research Institute is supported by donors who believe in the critical research and insight-generating work we do on behalf of young people. Make your own tax-deductible donation with a variety of giving options on our website today. Be sure to follow us on social media at We Are Springtide and interact with the resources in the Springtide series on mental health by using the hashtag Mental Health and Gen Z. Today's show was produced by Marta Abawaji. The audio was mixed by Andy Palmer, with original music created by high school student Christian Unthink. Special thanks to the 16 guests featured in Season 7 and to all the young people whose perspectives and insights make our research possible. Thank you for listening.